right, welcome to another episode of Sedaru Live. I'm Adam Simonson, Director Enterprise Solutions for Sedaru. Kevin Koshko, Sedaru Chief Product Officer, is here also. Hi,
Hey,
Kevin.
how's it going? How you doing?
Good. Good. It's Friday.
It is Friday. Happy Friday, man.
I know.
Any plans this weekend?
No, I have no good plans this weekend. I'm taking it hour by hour here. Just trying to get through the next hour.
Wow. Okay. Well, hopefully this next hour is worth your time.
Nice. We're trying a little different Sedaru Live format this time. We're actually, normally, those of you that listen to this, we usually are doing some product demos, talking through stuff. But Ken and I were a little intrigued by the recent CES show, which is the big computer electronics show in Las Vegas every year, and thought, hey, let's talk about what technology we think is cool for water utilities, what's not so cool for water utilities. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit, and we'll be curious to hear your comments as well too. So I think Kevin, first gripe, number one, did you go? Neither of us went to Las Vegas for the CES show, right?
Is it invite only, or is it?
No, anybody can go.
Okay, I thought it was exclusive. I think that's the video game one where you have to get an invite to it. But no, I did not go, and I've never been to one actually on the floor. Have you?
No, I haven't. But I mean, and I honestly think if there's two people that deserve an all-expense-paid trip to Las Vegas to go geek out on technology, it should be you and I.
I think you're looking at it.
If the boss is listening to this, make sure, let's just take a mental note and understand, next January when you can't find Kevin and I, we'll be in Las Vegas looking at technology.
That's right. How can you say no to these faces?
Exactly. That's what I think. So let me ask you this. Let's see. I put together a list of what I thought were the top 3 coolest technology trends from there that apply to water utilities. And I think you put together something similar, right?
I have a couple key ones that it's part of the CES. There's a lot of elements of it, but they're also kind of 2 high-level major trends that I think water and utilities are going to benefit from. So yeah.
Gotcha. So tell me this. So what? Let's see if there's any overlap between what you and I came up with there. So what's quickly your top 3 there?
Yeah, so I have 2. So one is augmented reality. So Magic Leap, HoloLens, those types of things. And then the other one is voice commands, and kind of going away from a computer interface to more of talking and more of a natural conversational.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I had both of those except one of them I put in the category of completely overblown and not going to happen at water utilities. So,
good.
So we'll have to see. So the one we certainly agree on there, I think, is the voice control of software, right?
Right.
One of the things that I see with I've got the Alexa at my home, and everybody's been has Siri on their phone and some of that stuff, right? We see it with water utilities too. When you're out in the field, typing sometimes is a pain. It's not it's not the easiest thing in the world, right? So I certainly see the benefits of that.
Yeah, I do too. It's funny. So if you look at something like a main break, or trying to check status of something, we're always quick to kind of sit at our desk and look something up, search for something and see where things are at. So for those that are familiar with the Sedaru outage tool, right? You pull up your iPad, you pull up your app, and you kind of see what's going on. But a future thing for that could be something more like, hey, what's the status of the break on 123 Main Street? And then Alexa.
Oh, your Alexa's yelling at you, isn't she?
37 customers out of service. And all subscribers have been notified. What is the crew status? On site, en route?
Yeah, we can't quite pick up what she's saying. So.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Okay, so yeah, I have a little sample of it. I'm going to turn it up a little louder and let me know if you can hear it.
Smart outage has confirmed the outage at 123 Main Street has 3 valves to close and 37 customers out of service.
Yeah, you can hear that. Yeah, so I get the idea. So you got basically the information from there being able to sort of repeat that and have that come.
Exactly. Yeah. So like instead of just saying, oh, look it up on the computer, just say, hey, what's up with that main brake? And then Alexa says, yeah, it's got 3 valves to close. The crew's on site. There's still the repair that's going to happen soon. So like all the details can just be told to you as, conversation.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, and I'll tell you what's interesting about it, right? Because I think in general, right, and I don't think I'm overstating this, right, but I think we can kind of like all agree that the Apple Siri kind of sucks, right?
Yeah.
Right. It just never has worked right. You've never been able to do it other than for like the most simple kind of basic commands.
Yeah, it's always like set a timer or do something, call, Bob or whoever. But yeah, it doesn't seem like they did a good job with getting that any further. And Alexa has really kind of penetrated a lot of that.
Right. Well, and I think what Amazon has done too is they have just made it way easier to program against it.
Yeah.
Siri is so locked down, and you need so many particular permissions and to do things in a particular way to be able to access it. And I think you need specific Apple blessing and approval to write your application to interface with Siri too.
Sure.
So it's not in Apple's best interest. They're not gonna go with it, I think.
You bet. The one thing I haven't tried though is the Google Home.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever like searched like Google on a phone, it's really good. So like you ask like, okay, Google, like a question, it does a really good job with that. Like Alexa, I think is pretty poor at like a conversational question to be asked. It's real specific. So like, for example, like Google, like my daughter will be like, Google, are mermaids real? And then it'll like tell like a story all about it, and then like you ask Alexa and she's like, I'm sorry, I don't know that one, Right. So we get used to like, a lot of because there's, Google has its, entire world of database behind it. But
so Alexa's more like a real parent and Google's like the parent.
Yeah. Google's more of like a fantasy world, and
well,
very stern.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is I think when you look at technology, if you get Apple, Amazon, and Google all sort of working together at something and competing against each other to make something, you can be pretty well guaranteed that it's going to get better pretty quickly, and you're going to end up with something fairly powerful and awesome in the near future. So.
Super good point. When you have that conglomeration of competition, we can all, count on something pretty awesome.
Sure. Yeah. So that's cool. That's cool. And I'm glad to see we're, from a Sedaru side of things, we're thinking that same way too.
For sure.
And that's pretty neat. I'll tell you what the other two things that I had that I thought were really, cool technology that continues to evolve that I think you're going to see at water utilities sooner rather than later. One is just in general health sensors, and I think so you see the market for like health sensors like explode, right? And for all the kind of normal things that you think about from people tracking their health, right? And your heart rate and all these pieces, right? But one of the things that comes up, especially that I hear a lot with field staff, is what are things that they can do to increase safety for people who are on the field? A lot of times that boils down to how do we protect folks that are out working by themselves?
Yeah.
So if something happens to somebody who's out working by themselves, like you've been sent out to go inspect hydrants today, and you get sent off to the corner of the water utility, and something happens, how do we know about it?
Yeah.
We've got GPS in vehicles lots of times and we're doing stuff, but, are you just hanging out at Starbucks, or did something actually happen to you when that GPS hasn't moved in a long time?
Sure.
So it's interesting because I was with a utility a couple weeks back, and we went down a rabbit hole kind of talking about some of this stuff. And there's been there's some very expensive solutions out there like that can, you take like your like security badge, right? Might have an RFID chip in it. And you put these RFID sensors throughout all of your facilities, right? So your pump stations, your treatment plants, different rooms, other sort of key areas. And it can use the RFID chip to kind of identify where somebody is and where they are. And so if they're like in a in a pump station or a lift station facility, but haven't moved, the person hasn't moved in a half hour, like maybe something's up, right? The problem with all those things is that they're really expensive. Not the RFID chips, but to outfit your utility with all the required infrastructure for those RFID things it's not trivial, right? To do that, and you end up with this other sort of network and do this. So the idea that we're creating these these sensors, which the most common thing you're seeing today is on a watch, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to have that watch and the newest Apple Watch that has its own sort of cell connectivity into it and that kind of thing. You're now thinking of the fact that's like, if I was having somebody wear a sensor that costs me a couple $100, from a utility perspective, but it just plugs into all my existing infrastructure, it's a no-brainer from sort of a health and safety perspective.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I guess it's come a long way from the life alert button where I've fallen and I can't get up. That one.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. The bigger issue will be figuring out how to, and I think, you see this all over the place, right? What do you do when your employer wants to start monitoring your health data? It opens up another sort of Pandora's box of other kind of issues, and there's a lot of regulatory problems and some of that. So there'll be a trick in there of figuring out some of that stuff and how to apply it appropriately. But I see that, from a workplace safety perspective, I can see a lot of utilities looking to say, if I can do that relatively low cost, that might be a pretty neat thing to do.
Yeah. I guess I can see it both ways. I can see it as an even more intimate Big Brother type of look into it as well. When, it's like, not only can they see where I am, but they know my heart rate, they know my cholesterol levels. Right. Where does it stop? So
they're like, Joe, did you need that cheeseburger for lunch?
Yeah, come on.
No, that's what I mean. There's a line of where it's going to have to get sorted out and thought about a little bit. But let's think. 10 years ago when we first started, the first proposals showed up to put GPSs in trucks, right?
Yeah.
To a field person, they thought that was the worst idea in the world.
Yeah. Right.
Like that's insane. Like you don't need to be following me around and know where I am. And there's certainly a management oversight piece of these things, but then there's just this piece of, wow, there's all these other benefits that come out of these things, and being able to do your job better, more efficient, and so I think that'll be interesting, because I think the health sensors in general are just becoming more ubiquitous, and so they'll fall in there. I tell you, one of the coolest things that I saw, which I kind of had number one on my list, was, and I don't know if you've seen these. Have you seen these? What they're calling companion robots?
So is this just the little thing that kind of cruises alongside you when you're like at home, or is this like out and about?
At home or wherever. Like I've seen these applications of like basically like luggage that will follow you around the airport.
Yeah, because it's so hard to like pull the handle.
It's horrible. No, that's, to me, that's a gimmick, right? That's a total gimmick, right? But I can also think of, if you are, you're out working, you're moving around an area, and to be able to have your toolbox or your toolkit, or to be able to sort of have that like extra set of hands that can help you do some of that stuff, that you can, you have that thing that says like, oh, hey, I need this such and such a wrench, I need this. Oh, hey, can we get a light on here? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That I can see, I don't know of anything that's around the corner from that perspective.
Sure.
And I'll tell you what comes to mind naturally too, is you think of that Wax valve machine, right? Which is really, it would, I think we'll look back and say, okay, that was an early generation robot to be used to automate some of these tasks at a utility, right? And it's and all the reasons why you get a valve turner, are sort of similar, right? Like, you have some folks are using those just because they want better torque applied more evenly on valves, right? And they want to track all the intermediate stuff that happens with how you turn a valve, right? Other folks, it's a work and safety issue, right? They don't want guys bending over that with the, trying to, throw their backs out doing stuff. And I can see similar sort of things as these robot pieces get better. Like, why couldn't you have a robot that is doing a hydrant inspection for you?
Right.
You know? That is, that's pulling off the cap, that's lubricating, that's doing, that's going through the checks on all those things, at that time to, getting you a pressure test on things and doing a lot of stuff. And maybe you're not just sending that robot off into the wild, like from the shop, and it's going around as much as it's going with somebody from place to place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're in the truck, you drive up, the robot goes off, does its thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of how, and I don't know, I don't know how you guys have like your garbage pickup and recycling done, but where I am, the guys never get out of the truck anymore.
Right. Yeah.
They drive up next to it. The arm goes out, does its thing, and again, you would think when they first wanted to do these things, like the sky was falling, like that we'll never be able to pick up garbage unless we're picking it up with our hands and putting it in the trash, and now it's like the workman's comp claims for garbage pickup has just plummeted because people aren't having to do as much of that. So I think as these robots get a little bit better and a little bit, I think it could work, because you think about it too, like the robot gets smart enough to look at the hydrant and know, okay, this is the kind of hydrant I'm looking at, it's this model, this make, here's the all those things, and to be able to do something cool like that. So
yeah, I've always thought, and I think most of the planet agrees, that like the tipping point of like robot adoption and like when we know that robots are actually useful is when they can get us a beer, right? It's like, okay, can it get me a beer? And if the answer is yes, then okay, robots have made good strides. Then they can start turning valves and lubricating hydrants. But I think beer first, and then
beer first, maybe. Well, there's this thing though, I think when you think about robots, that like, what was the movie? Do you remember the movie like when we were kids with where they like the robot gets the kid into space? Like they like figure out how to hijack the space shuttle. I can't remember what it's called. Short Circuit or something. There's a movie like it's great. It's great.
Yeah, okay.
But it was like every robot had to have like two eyes and a nose and arms, and it had to be human-like.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't a robot. Like it had to be really close to C-3PO to be considered a robot. And I think what we're, in manufacturing, this has been going on forever, but from a mainstream perspective, we're starting to realize like, oh, when we talk about robot, that's like, it can take really any form factor that makes sense to complete. Yeah. It doesn't have to be emotional. It doesn't have to have emotions.
Right. it can't be cute like Wall-E. It has to actually, be functional, and maybe it looks like a spider and like some sort of like electronic nightmare, but at least it does the job, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that'll be, the other thing I wonder too is how long is it going to take, right? So you have like you run one of those wax valve machines. Have you ever run one before? I've been on the field. You've been done, right?
Yeah. Have you ever been thrown off of one?
No, I haven't. But they're these big, like they're such like a noisy, like it's got a big old engine on the thing. You got to carry on extra fuel for it. You got to fire the thing up, and depending on how far away you are from one valve to another, you're like, well, do I shut it off in between one valve and the other? Do I keep it running? All these sort of things. Like, why on earth did they not have electric motors on them?
They did. There's some that haven't, like some earlier generations, and there's like hand operated ones that you literally plug in. So if you have like an inverter on the truck, you'll plug it in and go from there. Those are actually the ones that'll throw you off pretty nicely.
Because they can torque up way faster.
Oh yeah, big time
motor. Yeah.
So that, and then the hydraulic ones too. But yeah, it's just hydraulics are easy because you're maintaining like the hydraulic fluid, but that's powering it. You have, your PTO actually, powering it. So it's not too much overhead, but it just depends. But yeah, it's getting better. So, but with a robot,
all those things to just become like slicker, smaller, easier to move around, and to to do a lot with, right? Like, you get to a spot, you're not going to need like your valve turning robot to be on the back of a big old truck. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can have like a regular sized vehicle.
Well, it's just, an autonomous valve exercising vehicle, that goes around and does that and supports you. I mean,
right. Well, and the thing that, you and I also love about robots, right, is they collect data really easily.
Mm-hmm.
So from a Sedaru perspective, that's what we're built to do, right? How do we go? How can we, and how can we kind of collect as much data as we can? How can it be used in other parts of the organization? And one of our limiting factors today, like when we're setting up Sedaru, we're always setting it up to make it as easy as possible for the field staff, right, to collect things. And one of the practical decisions you're making is like, well, we don't want to make this guy stand out here forever and collect 19 pieces of data, because that's just not terribly efficient. So let's pick the 6 pieces that we care the most about.
Yeah.
But you move robots in to do some of that stuff, and your options open up a little bit more.
Yeah, so, very true.
So all right. So here's the thing we disagree with: the whole like augmented reality, right, piece of things, like the wearing your Snapchat glasses or glasses that you're, or I'm wearing like I'm doing this bullshit. I got like my phone in front of my head or something like that. Like, so. I get it. I get it that it's kind of cool, right? And if I was playing, I don't know, I don't play video games, but like World of Warcraft or something, right? Like that's probably really cool, right?
Yeah. So
here's the problem I have. Right? And I get it. Like, how cool would it be to be on the street and to look and be like, have this representation of all your buried infrastructure showing up right there in front of you, I just don't know, like, I just have such a hard time with when we talk to utilities and the amount of energy and effort that goes into getting an accurate XY that people like, and we'll look on a map and you can get consensus that says like, hey, these XYs are pretty good. We can use this. Yeah. Add that third dimension of it's buried and I got to like see it. And how does it interrelate to other stuff? I have a hard time figuring out like how we get there.
It's not going to happen. So here's my difference with AR versus what you're thinking. And the first thing that kind of comes to mind usually is, oh, okay, you put on your Snapchat glasses and now you can see everything, all the pipes underground and it's all perfect. It's never going to get enough accuracy for those to be properly represented. Some things that I've seen, like some science experiment, like AR type of applications that show like the pipes and it's like all like jaggedy and like moving around, like you move. Nothing. It's just, it's crap. So it's, we'll see, how it goes, but it's not the technology. It's the reality that you have to get centimeter accurate GPS locations for every asset in your system, including the pipes you lay, which is not possible. Right. So,
and including the pipes and including the infrastructure that's not yours.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So the gas lines and the power lines and all this other stuff too, right?
So starting from zero, like I heard that they were doing some smart city that the Bill Gates Foundation was going to help fund and finance. And if we had like starting at zero with all the technology that we had now, we could probably do it. Like if you built a city from rubble and then, now we can start there. Any existing infrastructure is just going to be such a pain. But what I think about augmented reality is not that. I think that just being able to pull up screens or even models of your system on a desk that like you and I can share and stare at, and like zoom in to like what the city looks like and the buildings and see the pipes under a modeled scenario, even though it's not like, we're not standing there. I think that's where it's really powerful. I can use my hands to zoom into a pump station, twist it, rotate it, see all the things that are going on with it, tap it, pull up attributes, all within a very, almost like a miniature version of the utility. And I think that can be very powerful.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so it's not the idea of trying to like overlay it in the field out there as much as having this way better user interface to take a lot of existing data, work with it.
Absolutely. That's the new GIS. That's where it needs to go, where, you have it very interactive. I can model it. There is some just struggled examples of the HoloLens at the Esri conference where they're like, oh, look, okay, and all you have to do is like make this weird gesture, and it doesn't work all the time, and like, okay, now move your helmet this way, and you just look like a horse's ass trying to zoom into this stupid like little blocky city. But it's going to get there, and as the technology gets better, so like Magic Leap, Meta, there's a couple of vendors out there that are doing that are getting a lot closer, and it's a lot less dorky to wear, which is important. You can't be out there with some helmet thing or your cell phone strapped to your face. It has to be reasonably comfortable and look somewhat normal. But yeah, so when you have all that, then yeah, I think we're going to see computing change, because you don't need a screen anymore. Like Samsung and all those guys better get into these chipsets versus plastering screens on the wall, because you can create your own. You can have a screen right here, a screen right here, make your own big screen on the wall, and have Larry Fitzgerald catching touchdown passes right in your living room. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, so how far away are we from where you don't need to do call before you dig anymore?
Yeah.
Ever? I mean, is that ever going to, I mean, when you think about the things that you're like, just still seem crazy that we haven't figured out a better way than every time you need to dig in the hole every time you need to, make a hole, that 9 different people have to come out with a can of spray paint and mark up a bunch of stuff in there.
Right. I mean, it's one step away from like a chisel and like, the ancient times. But yeah, because of the reason why we talked that augmented reality for like seeing pipes in the ground out there, it won't work, because until people like build it from the ground up, no one has an accurate representation of what's in the ground. It's all just like, all right, well, these guys have that, these guys have that. So you need like every bit of infrastructure to be, digitized before it even goes in the ground to make it work. So.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. I don't see, I mean, the technology is all there, obviously, right?
Sure.
Every bit of technology you would need so that you wouldn't have to do that's there. It's just the accuracy of what's there, right, doesn't exist. And then trying to get like 9 different agencies to work together.
Oh yeah. But try that. Yeah.
Possible. But it is an interesting thought. So cool. Any other cool things from that CES show that you saw that you want to bring up? Or
yeah. Well, last thing I saw that I think it won like the best in show for the event was this Toyota autonomous vehicle. It looked kind of like a bus, but it was totally multi-purpose. So what they do is they cruise around the city. One can be like a bar. Another one can be like a nap station. Another one can be like a restaurant. Another one can be, a commuter vehicle. Yeah. So like, it's basically like these vehicles that just cruise around that can offer all different types of services. And you just step in and head to where you're going.
I'm looking it up right now. I get it. It's called the Toyota e-Pallet, right?
That's right. And then they can make, then they can use them for like logistics and shipping. And like, it's basically this, whatever on wheels. So
interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Why don't they just call it a bus?
I don't know. Because e-pallet seems, far more,
I guess.
I don't know.
It definitely looks like a bus.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, I don't have anything else. I think, I think we did a good roundup here of it. And the 2018 goal next year is that we're going to actually go to CES.
Yeah, I like that plan. I think we need to go for it, and should we ask permission or should we just book it?
Maybe we'll just go. We'll beg for forgiveness.
It's my motto.
Very good. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Take a moment and go to, you can find us on Facebook at Sedaru Live, or on LinkedIn, look for Sedaru, or on Twitter, Sedaru Live as well too. Follow us there, and you'll get lots of other fun updates from us.
All right. That was fun. Yeah, you too, buddy.
All right. Bye.
Yep.